The first time I met Chloe was in 8th grade. She had just moved from another state, clutching her books so tightly as if they were her only shield. I remember how quiet she was that day, her eyes darting nervously as she searched for a seat in the crowded cafeteria. Everyone else ignored her, but something about her made me wave her over. "Hey, there's room here," I said, patting the chair next to me. She smiled, a little hesitant but relieved. "Thanks, I'm Chloe." From that moment, we became inseparable. We walked to classes together, stayed up late FaceTiming each other about homework, and shared secrets no one else knew. People often joked that we were twins in spirit, even though we looked nothing alike. Her with her long blonde hair and effortless style, me with my plain brown ponytail and thrift store sweaters. Our bond only grew stronger once high school began. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every failed test, we faced it side by side. When I cried after bombing my freshman math midterm, Chloe brought me ice cream and reminded me that grades don't define us. When she broke up with her first boyfriend, I was there with tissues and stupid rom-coms. But what truly tied us together was our shared dream, the Westbridge Scholarship. It wasn't just any scholarship. Westbridge was the most prestigious private university in the region, a place that could open doors to careers, connections, and futures we could only imagine. And every year, they awarded one full scholarship to the top graduating student at our high school. Covered tuition, housing, books, everything. For me, coming from a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, this scholarship was more than an opportunity. It was survival. We used to whisper about it during study sessions. "Imagine us walking through those ivy-covered halls together," Chloe said one night, lying on my bedroom floor surrounded by notebooks. Both of us, roommates, making memories that last forever. I laughed, hugging a pillow. "Yeah, but there's only one scholarship. We can't both win." "Then we'll fight fair," she replied, grinning. "No matter who gets it, we'll still be together. Promise." "Promise?" I echoed, sealing the vow with a pinky swear. Back then, I believed her. The years passed quickly. By junior year, we were the top 2 students in our grade, always neck and neck in GPA. Teachers praised Chloe for her confidence and charm, while they admired my dedication and quiet persistence. People said it was impossible to predict which of us would come out on top, and honestly, I didn't care. I thought Chloe and I were on the same team. But looking back now, I realized the first cracks in our friendship appeared long before I noticed. It was subtle at first. Chloe would make little comments that stung more than I let on. "You're so good at cramming," she once said with a teasing smile. "I wish I had your desperation." I laughed awkwardly, brushing it off. Maybe she didn't mean it that way. Maybe it was just her sense of humor. But something inside me whispered that things were shifting. Then, during senior year orientation, our principal stood on stage and announced the Westbridge Scholarship process had officially begun. Every student sat up straighter. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. "The scholarship will be awarded at graduation," he declared. "Grades, extracurricular achievements, teacher recommendations, and leadership will all factor into our decision. Let the best student shine." The crowd buzzed with excitement. I glanced at Chloe, expecting to share one of our secret smiles. The kind that said, "This is our dream, and we're in this together." Instead, her expression was different. Her lips curled into a confident smirk, and her eyes glinted with something I had never seen before. Ambition. Ruthless, unyielding ambition. For the first time, I wondered, if only one of us could win, would our friendship survive? The day the scholarship process officially began felt like the starting gun at a marathon. Suddenly, everything we did, every assignment, every club meeting, every extra credit project, mattered more than ever. The entire senior class buzzed with nervous energy. Our homeroom teacher, Mrs. Carter, gathered us in the auditorium. She stood at the podium with her usual stern posture, glasses perched on the edge of her nose, scanning the restless students before her. "As you all know," she began, "this year's graduating class will compete for the Westbridge Scholarship. It will not only reward academic excellence but also leadership, extracurricular activities, and character. The committee will be watching closely. Her voice echoed in the silent hall. You could practically hear hearts beating faster. Chloe leaned over and whispered in my ear, her breath tickling my shoulder. This is it, Emma. This is our shot. I nodded, trying to hide how my palms were sweating. We just have to stick to our plan. Work hard. Support each other. Right? She flashed me a smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Of course. At that moment, I wanted to believe her. The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and caffeine-fueled study sessions. Chloe and I were still hanging out, but something had shifted. She started showing off more in class, answering every question before anyone else had a chance, laughing a little too loudly when teachers praised her. One afternoon in history, I raised my hand to answer a question about the Civil War. But before I could even finish my thought, Chloe cut me off. Actually, she said, with a confident toss of her hair, the Emancipation Proclamation didn't free all enslaved people immediately. It was more symbolic until the Union Army enforced it. Mrs. Carter beamed. Excellent point, Chloe. Very well said. I lowered my hand slowly, heat creeping up my neck. That had been my answer. After class, I pulled her aside. You didn't have to interrupt me like that. She shrugged, twirling her pen between her fingers. It's not a big deal, Emma. This is competition. You have to be faster. Her words stung, but I brushed them off. She was probably just stressed. We both were. A week later, Chloe and I were in the library, drowning in textbooks. She closed her laptop with a dramatic sigh. Look, she said, leaning closer. Promise me again that no matter what happens with this scholarship, we won't let it ruin us. We're stronger than this. Her voice was soft, almost pleading, and for a moment, I saw the Chloe I had always known. My best friend, my partner in this crazy journey. I smiled. Of course, no scholarship could ever come between us. She grinned and squeezed my hand. Good, because I'd rather lose it than lose you. At the time, her words felt reassuring. But now, thinking back, I wonder if she was trying to convince herself more than me. Over the next month, little cracks kept appearing. Chloe started forgetting to invite me to group study sessions, even though I found out later she organized them. She suddenly had private meetings with Mrs. Carter to discuss recommendations. One day, I caught her slipping my essay draft into her bag. When I asked why, she laughed it off. Oh, come on, Emma. I just wanted to compare it to mine. Don't be paranoid. But the doubt had been planted. Something about her tone didn't feel right. By the time the mid-semester results came in, Chloe was ranked first. I was second, just 2 points behind. Everyone congratulated her. Teachers clapped her on the back. Students whispered in the hallways about how she was a sure win. She turned to me, her smile dazzling. Don't worry, Emma. You're right behind me. Maybe we'll both make it somehow. I forced a smile, but deep inside, unease gnawed at me. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't sure Chloe and I were still on the same side. The closer we got to graduation, the more I realized Chloe wasn't the same person I'd befriended years ago. She was still smiling, still laughing, still calling me her bestie in front of others. But behind closed doors, something was off. At first, I tried to ignore it. Maybe it was just stress. Everyone was under pressure. But then the little moments started stacking up like puzzle pieces, forming an ugly picture. One Thursday afternoon, I texted Chloe, "Hey, want to study together for the calculus test tomorrow?" She replied an hour later, "Sorry, already busy. Next time." That wouldn't have been strange. Except the next day, I walked into the library and saw her at a table with 3 of the top students in class, laughing and trading notes. When she spotted me, her smile faltered for a second. Then she waved. "Emma, we were just, helping each other out." I forced a smile and waved back, but my chest felt tight. We used to study together. Always. Mrs. Carter, our homeroom teacher, had always been tough but fair. Yet suddenly, she seemed to have a soft spot for Chloe. Chloe started staying after class, chatting with her about future plans and recommendations. When I tried to stay behind once, Mrs. Carter politely excused me. "Emma, I'm sorry, but I need to discuss something private with Chloe. Maybe tomorrow. I packed up my bag slowly, my ears burning as I heard them laughing behind me. That night, Chloe texted me, "Don't worry, I was just asking about essay formatting. You're overthinking." But deep down, I knew it wasn't just formatting. It wasn't until the history quiz that my suspicions really grew. The night before, Chloe had come over. We quizzed each other, trading flashcards until midnight. I trusted her. I even showed her my outline for the essay question. The next day, when Mrs. Carter handed back the graded quizzes, I froze. Chloe's essay answer was nearly identical to mine, down to the examples and phrasing. She leaned over and whispered, "Great minds think alike, huh?" I wanted to believe her, but the knot in my stomach told me otherwise. The worst moment came a week later. In class, Mrs. Carter praised Chloe for an essay she had written on Shakespeare's tragedies. "This is the kind of insightful analysis we're looking for in the scholarship selection," she said. "A model for all of you." As the class applauded, my heart sank. Because that essay, those arguments, they were mine. I had shared my draft with Chloe 2 nights earlier, asking for feedback. I stared at her across the room. She met my gaze, then gave a little shrug, as if to say, "What can you do?" My hands shook under the desk. For the first time, I realized my best friend might not just be competing with me. She might be trying to erase me. That night, I lay awake in bed replaying everything in my head. The study sessions I wasn't invited to, the answers she stole, the sudden favoritism from Mrs. Carter. I whispered into the dark, "What are you doing, Chloe? Why are you doing this to me?" But of course, there was no answer. Only silence. It all came crashing down on a Thursday morning in English class. We had been assigned a personal essay, a defining moment that shaped who you are. For me, it was obvious what to write about. The day my dad lost his job and how it forced me to grow up faster than I should have. It wasn't a story I told lightly. I'd only shared it with Chloe because she was my best friend. She knew how painful it was for me, how much it shaped my determination to win the scholarship. So when Mrs. Carter stood at the front of the class and said, "Chloe has graciously agreed to read her essay aloud," I wasn't worried, until she began to speak. Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. She described my story, my dad, my family, the humiliation of standing in line at the food bank. Every detail I had told her in confidence spilled from her mouth like it was her own memory. The class listened, rapt, some nodding sympathetically. Mrs. Carter's eyes shone with pride. When Chloe finished, the room erupted in applause. "That," Mrs. Carter said, "is the kind of resilience and personal strength Westbridge looks for." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My hands trembled under the desk. I stared at Chloe, waiting for her to glance back, to give me a sign that this was some horrible mistake. But she didn't. She just smiled, basking in the praise. After class, I cornered her in the hallway. "How could you?" I hissed, my voice shaking. "That was my story. You stole it." She rolled her eyes. "Relax, Emma. It's not like you own the concept of hardship. Everyone's parents struggle sometimes. Maybe it's just parallel experiences." "Parallel?" I snapped. "You even mentioned the exact soup kitchen my family went to." Her expression hardened. "Look, Emma, this is a competition. You think Westbridge cares whose sob story is sadder? They care about delivery, and clearly I deliver better." Her words sliced through me like glass. The betrayal spread like wildfire. Rumors whispered through the hallways. "Did you hear Chloe's essay? She's so inspiring. I didn't know she went through all that. No wonder she's winning." I wanted to scream the truth, that those weren't her struggles, that they were mine. But how could I prove it? It was her word against mine, and Chloe had already charmed the teachers and classmates. That night, I sat on my bed staring at our old selfies. Me and Chloe at the mall, at the beach dressed up for prom. In every photo, we looked inseparable, like nothing could break us. But the girl in those pictures, she wasn't my friend anymore. The final straw came a week later during debate club. The topic was, should elite universities prioritize financial need in scholarships? I argued passionately for it. It was my reality. Without financial aid, kids like me had no chance. When it was Chloe's turn, she smirked at me before launching into her speech. I believe scholarships should prioritize merit above all else, she said confidently. Struggles are subjective. What matters is talent, dedication, and the ability to shine. And honestly, some people just use hardship as an excuse for being average. Gasps rippled through the room. Her eyes locked on mine as she said it. It wasn't just an argument. It was a dagger aimed straight at me. That night, I lay awake with one thought echoing in my mind. Chloe wasn't just competing against me anymore. She was trying to destroy me. By the middle of senior year, it felt like Chloe had the whole school in her pocket. Teachers adored her. Students admired her. Even parents at PTA meetings whispered her name like she was destined for greatness. And me? I was invisible. Everywhere I turned, Chloe seemed 2 steps ahead. In science, she turned in a lab report nearly identical to the one I had drafted, but hers had polished graphics and a flawless presentation. She got an A+. I scraped a B. In student council, I suggested organizing a fundraiser for underprivileged kids in the community. Chloe swooped in with the same idea, only bigger, grander. She convinced the council to back her plan, and suddenly I was just another volunteer. It was like she had stolen my voice. Every idea, every effort I made, she found a way to claim or overshadow. The pressure started getting to me. At lunch, I overheard whispers. Emma's smart, but she's not Chloe smart. Honestly, Chloe's just on another level. Even my friends started drifting. They wanted to be close to the winner, and Chloe looked like a winner. I started questioning myself. Maybe I really wasn't good enough. Maybe I was just average. One night, I sat at my desk, textbooks spread around me, notes scattered like confetti. My eyes blurred over equations, my pen shaking in my hand. Finally, I snapped. I slammed the book shut and buried my face in my arms. Tears soaked through the paper beneath me. What's the point? I whispered into the dark. She's going to take everything anyway. For the first time in my life, I considered quitting. The next day, I dragged myself to school, hollow and exhausted. As I walked into the library, I noticed someone watching me. Mr. Reynolds, the librarian. He was kind but quiet, often fading into the background. That morning, he stopped me. Emma, he said gently, I've seen you here almost every night. You work harder than anyone I know. I forced a weak smile. Doesn't matter. Hard work isn't enough. He studied me for a moment, then leaned closer. Don't underestimate yourself. Sometimes the truth has a way of coming out when you least expect it. His words didn't erase the pain, but they planted a seed. A fragile, trembling hope that maybe I wasn't done yet. Meanwhile, Chloe was soaring higher. She strutted through the halls like she already had the scholarship in her hands. She even bragged to a group of students one afternoon. Honestly, I don't even see Emma as competition anymore. She's sweet, but let's be real. This is my scholarship. Laughter rippled through the group. I walked past, my fists clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. But deep inside, a fire flickered back to life. I wasn't finished. Not yet. For weeks, it felt like Chloe's victory was inevitable. But sometimes even the best liars slip up. It happened in history class. Mrs. Carter asked Chloe to elaborate on her essay about Shakespeare's tragedies, the one she had stolen from me. Chloe hesitated for just a moment too long. Well, she began, shifting in her seat. I think Shakespeare was, tragic because his plays, they all ended badly? A couple of students snickered. I raised an eyebrow. The essay she turned in was brilliant, layered with analysis, full of references. But hearing her stumble now, it was clear she didn't truly understand half of it. Mrs. Carter frowned but quickly brushed it off. Still, I saw it. A weakness. Later that week, I went back to the library. Mr. Reynolds, the quiet librarian, stopped me again. I couldn't help but notice something, he said softly. Chloe checked out a stack of essay anthologies last month. A little too convenient, don't you think? I blinked. You mean, she might have copied them? He gave a small shrug. I can't prove anything, but patterns have a way of revealing themselves. Keep your eyes open. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of possibility. Chloe had formed her new study group with the top students, but even they began to notice something off. One afternoon, as I passed their table, I overheard, "Chloe, you didn't even solve the problem the same way you wrote it down. Are you sure this is your work?" Chloe laughed it off, flipping her hair. Of course it is. I was just experimenting with a different method. But I caught the doubt in their voices. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at the scholarship application packet. For weeks, I had felt like giving up. But now I realized Chloe wasn't invincible. She was clever, yes, but her lies were stitched together with borrowed threads. And borrowed threads eventually unravel. I whispered to myself, I'll be ready when they do. The school announced that the scholarship finalists would present their final projects at a public ceremony. Each candidate would have to defend their work, explain their essays, and answer questions from a panel of judges. I smiled to myself. Chloe could charm with stolen words on paper, but in front of a live audience, with questions she couldn't rehearse, that would be different. And maybe, just maybe, my chance for justice. The announcement of the scholarship ceremony changed everything. For weeks, Chloe had thrived in shadows, stealing ideas, twisting words, charming teachers with rehearsed brilliance. But this time, there would be no hiding behind essays or borrowed lines. This would be live, unscripted, and for the first time I felt like the odds weren't completely stacked against me. I threw myself into preparation with a determination I hadn't felt in months. Every night, I practiced in front of the mirror, rehearsing my answers to potential questions. What does resilience mean to you? How do you define success? Why should we invest in your future? I studied my old journals, pulling from real moments that shaped me. Late nights balancing homework with part-time shifts at the diner, helping my younger brother with his science projects, sitting beside my mom as she cried over unpaid bills. These weren't just stories. They were scars etched into me. And scars, unlike lies, couldn't be faked. Meanwhile, Chloe was basking in her own spotlight. She strutted through the halls, bragging loudly to anyone who would listen. This ceremony? Please, I've got it in the bag. The judges already love me. Emma doesn't stand a chance. She skipped study sessions, choosing instead to host celebration parties at her house. Celebrations for a victory that hadn't even happened yet. The more she gloated, the more determined I became. One afternoon, as I practiced in the library, Mr. Reynolds approached. Emma, he said softly, do you know what makes a good story? I frowned. Hard work? Details? He shook his head. Authenticity. People can sense when you're speaking from the heart. That's something Chloe can't fake, no matter how polished she looks. His words hit me hard. I realized my strength wasn't in perfection. It was in truth. As the ceremony drew closer, small doubts about Chloe began spreading among students and teachers. She couldn't answer a single follow-up question in class today. Funny how her essays sound so much smarter than the way she talks. I didn't start these whispers, but I didn't deny them either. For once, Chloe wasn't untouchable. The night before the ceremony, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Fear clawed at my chest. What if I froze on stage? What if Chloe humiliated me again? But beneath the fear was something stronger. Resolve. This was my chance. Not just to win a scholarship, but to prove to myself that I wasn't average, I wasn't weak, and I wasn't going to let betrayal define me. I whispered into the dark. Tomorrow, I fight back. The gymnasium had been transformed into something unrecognizable. Strings of lights hung from the rafters, casting a soft glow over the stage. Rows of folding chairs filled the space, packed with students, teachers, and parents. A long table sat at the front, where the scholarship judges waited, stern, serious, and sharp-eyed. I stood backstage clutching my note cards so tightly the edges bent. My heart hammered in my chest. I could hear the crowd murmuring, the squeak of chairs, the occasional cough. Every sound felt magnified, as if the universe wanted me to hear just how many eyes would be on me. Chloe arrived like she owned the place. She swept across the stage in a sleek navy dress, her hair perfectly curled, her smile dazzling. People whispered her name, and I even heard someone say, "She's definitely going to win." She turned her head just enough to catch my eye. Her smile sharpened into something smug, almost cruel. Then she mouthed two words, "Watch me." My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to breathe. Dr. Harris, the head of the scholarship committee, tapped the microphone. His deep voice echoed across the gym. "Tonight, we celebrate excellence. Each finalist will present their project and answer questions from our panel. We are not just looking for talent. We are looking for authenticity, resilience, and leadership." Authenticity. The word made Chloe shift in her seat. I noticed it, and it gave me a sliver of courage. Other students went first. A boy presented his engineering design for a water filtration system. A girl shared her research on renewable energy. They were brilliant, each in their own way, and the crowd clapped politely after every speech. Then it was Chloe's turn. She stepped to the podium, her confidence radiating. She spoke smoothly, her words carefully rehearsed. She quoted philosophers, sprinkled in statistics, and gestured dramatically like she'd been training for this moment all her life. The audience nodded. The judges scribbled notes. But as she moved into the Q&A, I noticed something. When Dr. Harris asked her to expand on one of her essay arguments, Chloe's smile faltered just slightly. She answered vaguely, circling around the question without really addressing it. A second judge pressed harder. "Can you explain the historical context that influenced this theme?" Chloe blinked, then quickly diverted with a charming laugh. "Well, I'd need more time to go into that in detail, but the essence is..." Her words flowed, but the cracks were there. Thin, almost invisible, but I saw them. Finally, my name was called. I walked to the podium, my legs trembling. The note cards shook in my hand. For a split second, I thought I might faint. Then I remembered Mr. Reynolds' words. Authenticity. That's something Chloe can't fake. I set the note cards down, took a deep breath, and spoke. "My name is Emma Williams, and my story isn't polished or perfect, but it's real." The crowd went silent. The gymnasium felt like it was holding its breath as I stood at the podium. I looked out at the sea of faces. Teachers, classmates, parents. My mom was there in the second row, clutching her worn purse, her eyes shimmering with hope. That sight steadied me more than anything else. "My name is Emma Williams," I began, voice trembling but steadying with each word. "And I don't have the most money, the perfect grades, or the smoothest words, but what I do have is experience, struggle, and the determination to never give up, no matter how much the odds are stacked against me." I told them about nights working at the diner until 2 a.m. before rushing to finish homework. About my younger brother asking me for help on his school projects when I barely had energy left. About the shame of hearing my mom apologize for not being able to afford new clothes for me. Every word was raw, unpolished, but it was mine. And when I spoke, the audience leaned in. They weren't nodding politely. They were listening. Dr. Harris asked me, "What do you think is the true measure of success?" I answered honestly, "Success isn't about standing above others. It's about refusing to stay down when life knocks you over. It's about lifting others with you, not stepping on them to climb higher." A murmur swept through the crowd. I saw Chloe stiffen in her seat. Then it was Chloe's turn for questions. "Your essay made a fascinating point about the symbolism in Shakespeare's Macbeth," one judge said. "Could you explain how that connects to modern leadership challenges?" Chloe's confident smile froze. She stumbled through a vague answer, repeating phrases from her essay but never digging deeper. Another judge leaned forward. "And your statistics? Where exactly did you source them?" Chloe's eyes darted to the audience, then back. Well, it was a combination of, books and articles." The silence after her answer was heavy. Whispers rippled through the gym. Students who had once cheered for Chloe exchanged uneasy glances. Teachers frowned. Even her so-called study group shifted uncomfortably. as if realizing they'd backed the wrong person. I felt my heart pounding, not from fear this time, but from something else. For the first time, Chloe looked human, vulnerable. Her polished armor was cracking. As the judges wrapped up the Q&A, Dr. Harris glanced down at his notes, then back up at Chloe. "Thank you, Miss Carter," he said in a tone that was polite, but no longer admiring. The applause was scattered. Nothing like the thunder she had expected. Chloe's smile flickered, just for a second. But that second was enough. For the first time since this battle began, I felt like I might actually win. The entire gymnasium was silent as the judges left the stage to deliberate. The air felt thick with tension. Every cough, every shuffle of shoes echoed like thunder. I sat on the edge of my chair, hands trembling, while Chloe fanned herself with exaggerated calm. She even leaned toward me with a smirk. "Don't get your hopes up, Emma," she whispered. "They'll never pick you over me." But for the first time, her words didn't cut as deep. Because deep down, I sensed her certainty was cracking. Dr. Harris and the panel returned. The entire room leaned forward. He cleared his throat and spoke into the microphone. "After careful consideration, the committee has decided. Tonight's scholarship is awarded to the student who displayed not only intelligence and eloquence, but also resilience, authenticity, and heart." My breath caught. "And that student is Emma Williams." The gym erupted into applause. My mom gasped loudly, her hands covering her mouth before she started crying tears of joy. My classmates clapped. Some even stood to cheer. Meanwhile, Chloe sat frozen, her smile gone, her nails digging into her armrest. She shot up from her seat, her voice sharp and panicked. "This is ridiculous. She doesn't deserve it. I worked harder. I was better." The room went quiet again. Dr. Harris looked at her calmly. "Miss Carter," he said firmly, "excellence is not measured in appearances. It is measured in integrity. And tonight, that integrity belonged to Emma." Gasps spread through the audience. Chloe's face flushed crimson as she realized. Everyone was watching her unravel. I stepped up to the podium, my knees shaking, but my voice steady. "I don't know what to say except, thank you. Thank you for believing that honesty matters. Thank you for showing that even when you're underestimated, you can rise." The audience applauded again, and for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Free. As people crowded around to congratulate me, Chloe stormed out of the gym, her heels clicking furiously against the floor. The whispers followed her. She wasn't as perfect as we thought. I didn't chase her. I didn't need to, because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about proving that no matter how many times life tried to push me down, I could stand back up and stand taller.